Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for spending 30 minutes with me. And we won't be a full 30 minutes because I want to give you time to take bio breaks, stretch your legs, maybe grab a bite to eat before we hop into our 12:30 sessions. My name is Sheila James, and I am the manager of network engagement for Teen Science Café. And we are a program within the STEM Next Opportunity Fund. How many of you, and I know at least one person in this session knows a lot about Teen Science Cafe. There might be others, but how many of you have heard of or know anything about Teen Science Cafe? And just drop it in the chat, or you can take yourself off of mute and talk because I love to talk. So I see some thumbs up. All right. Yay. Okay, great. So Teen Science Cafe, to me is if you're baking a cake, Teen Science Cafe can be one of those types of flours that you use, whether it's almond flour, wheat flour, whole flour. But Teen Science Cafe is one of the best kept secrets as it relates to informal STEM and youth voice within youth development. Teen Science Cafe is uh, an opportunity for teens to dictate what they want to know about STEM and how they want to know it. To have a Teen Science Cafe, you have to have an adult leader. You need an empowered youth leadership team because the youth drive what happens in Teen Science Cafe. You have to have a teen audience. And then with the help from the teen leader and the guides at Teen Science Cafe, you bring in STEM expert presenters, and those presenters hopefully will have some type of hands-on activities to share with the youth. And then it wouldn't be a cafe if we didn't have food. And so having food, because it is very informal, it's just a way for the youth to drive what they want to know and invite in who they want to know it from. And the leader is there to help them do this. It is for free out of school time programs, any type of out of school time programs, actually. And so you have teen leaders, adult leaders, and experts who collaborate. The cafes can meet on a regular basis for an average of 2 hours. They can also meet in the summer. They can meet once a month. They can meet once a week. They right now are being hosted by libraries, museums, zoos, nature centers, universities, after school providers, community partners, and then there are a lot more. The cool thing about Teen Science Cafe is that it promotes discovery, learning interests, and/or curiosity in STEM. It promotes teen leadership and empowerment, and it builds relationships and connections with local communities. One of the things that I am beginning to work on as the network manager is looking for ways that we can take the skills that the youth are learning as they are running their cafes and apply those to either graduation requirements or employability skills. So my goal is that youth will walk away with some sort of a certificate or a signature um, a credential stating that by participating in the cafe, they are walking away with these set of skills, which in Ohio, we call those Ohio job readiness skills, and we have an Ohio job readiness seal. And so adults who are running cafes in Ohio can sign off on that certificate that youth have mastered these skills and they go towards their graduation requirements. And so I would love to see that in all of the states that are participating. So that is one of the things that I am actually now working on. Um, We have teen science cafes all across the USA right now, and well, I won't say right now. These numbers were from 24. They're not counting our 24-25 cafes, but as of the end of last year, we had impacted 4,561 teens, and we had 100 cafe sites. We now have more. Um, Oops, sorry. We now have more cafes, and we are actually in the process of recruiting for cafes right now for the 25-26 year. And then you can look at that map and sort of see where they're located. Another goal I have is to try to get more cafes out on the west end of the country. We tend to be north, middle, and some in the south. So we want to branch out. So if you're from any of these states that don't have a dot, email me or connect with me somehow so we can get a cafe in your area. So the values of our cafes, there's interactivity. They provide youth with hands-on, in-depth explorations with STEM topics. When we're working with cafe leaders and they are bringing in STEM experts, we encourage them to make sure they're choosing experts who are coming in, who are bringing interactive materials and really know how to engage with youth. Our cafes, there's lots of authenticity because they offer youth connections to vetted real-world STEM experts. For the next 3 days, here's another side note, we are having STEM cafes live with experts from different regions, and this is in celebration of National Science Foundation's anniversary. I didn't put the link to sign up for that, but cafes are happening all over. They're going to be live, and then for the in-person part, the cafes will have activities that the youth can do with their STEM experts. Youth power, youth are the driving force and lead decision makers of the cafes. Again, when we talk about youth voice is more than just, I want an apple for lunch or I want to sit next to Sheila. Youth voice is an opportunity for youth to actually have a voice in what happens, how it happens, and when it happens. And so Teen Science Cafe is a great way to implement and instill youth voice in our young adults. The adult leader's role is to facilitate and support youth and program logistics. Again, if you are a community person and you have a group of youth that meet in your church weekly, you can do a Teen Science Cafe. Your role is just to support the youth and help them grow those skills that they would use to run their cafes. And cafes welcome youth with varied motivations, backgrounds, and experiences. And they're unique to their communities, and they look different in each and every cafe. Depending on where you are, who you're serving, your cafe is going to be built to fit the needs of the youth who are engaging with you. And if you have questions, let me know. So the community benefits, this is an opportunity for teens and adult leaders to create content. There's personalized training, mentorship to start and maintain a cafe. So each organization or person that starts a cafe, they are assigned a guide, and the guide sort of walks with you throughout the whole process. The benefits as a leader, there are professional development webinars, personalized training, and mentorship to start and maintain your cafe. There are Teen Science Cafe affinity groups. And then we are actually having a conference this November. Resources, you'll have the member directory, a searchable database of cafe subject areas. And we are actually, as I speak, in the background, working on creating a STEM expert matching program, which will be through our member portal. So the impact on teens, evaluations indicate that participating teens develop a greater interest in pursue STEM careers. They recognize the value of STEM in their daily lives. They gain confidence in communicating about STEM topics, and they feel inspired to learn more about STEM subjects, and they view STEM professionals positively. And so, the main thing is they get to decide what they want to know. I sometimes with programs, the adults have, we'll call them the checklists or different things that they have to make sure they are doing. The beautiful thing about Teen Science Cafe, if the teens say, well, we want to learn more about animation and gaming, it's really okay. The adult's role is to locate that expert to get them to come in and share about what it is they're doing. If they want to know about agriculture, if they want to know about marine biology, if they want to know about cosmetology, um, it's okay. It is their cafe. And so they get to choose what they want to know, and the adult's role is to just help them get that expert in. Um, Teen Science Cafe, we're growing local sites and bringing them to new places around the country, just like the community that you serve. We support each site via recruitment with a cafe leader, training, learning, community data collection, and evaluation. And then there's also engagement and volunteer opportunities, ongoing partnership, marketing, and communications. So in the chat, tell me your favorite way that you are currently using STEAM with your youth. Oh, I just saw a question in the chat while you're doing that. So Precious, the process is to first attend an information session, and I'm going to have links for that when we get to the end of this PowerPoint. Once you attend an information session and decide, yep, this is what I want to do, you sign up. You have to fill out, we call it an application, but you have to fill that out, tell us who you are, how many youth you're serving, where you are, what your thoughts are for how you're going to recruit the youth to participate if you're not already in a set program. And then you go through, talk with me, the guides, just to make sure it's a right fit. Well, I'm jumping ahead. This year, we're actually we're bringing on 40 new cafes, and the 40 new cafes will all receive $2,500 to help them launch and get started. And I'll stop and say this too. That is another good thing about the cafes. It's not really expensive because you can incorporate it into whatever you're already doing. So if you have an after school program, and this is for high schoolers. I didn't say that part. This is for high schoolers. We are thinking about a pilot for middle school, but we've got to do some work with that because I want to bring middle schoolers into this too. So we've got to work on how that pilot is going to work out. We did try it out in Columbus, but we need to do some tweaking. So this is for high schoolers, and say you have a group of high schoolers who are, already meeting for something, but that's really not enough, or they want to do more, you can incorporate your cafe into that, and use the $2,500 for your pizzas. And then going forward, the only funding you would need would be one, to pay the adult leader, and two, to provide food for the cafe. So there really isn't a cost, but we are giving this $2,500 just to get you started. Does that answer your question, Precious? You can give me a thumbs up. Okay, Christina, thank you. Gotcha. Okay. So about cafe communities, the teen leaders choose the cafe topics. Again, this is by the teens for the teens. It is their choice what they want to learn about. As the adult, you might be like, oh, why would you want to learn about that? Well, it's what they want, and they get to choose. They work with their adult leader to find an expert, and our guides also help with that, and hence why we're developing an STEM expert resource program. They provide host duties. They recruit peers by public speaking and marketing because they want to keep their cafes going. So we want them to bring in their friends so that their friends can participate. The adult leaders ensure that the teens have access to leadership roles. They provide valuable info and resources. They offer encouragement and guidance, and they collaborate with the experts to develop activities. The STEM experts, their role is to come in, share forming stories, introduce and explain a STEM topic, maybe share what their day-to-day career is like, because sometimes you think of a career, you go, oh, I would love to do that. But then when you hear what they really do, it's like, oh, maybe not. So explaining their day-to-day career, and then if at all possible, facilitate a hands-on activity, and then engage the youth with discussion. A part of the prep for the teen leaders is also to work with the other teens in their group to maybe come up with a set of questions that they are going to ask their experts, things that they really want to know. So they're working on that as well as the teen leaders. And so here's an example of a teen cafe, and this was Unidos in STEM. And so the teens were curious about what type of energy powers their homes. So they invited a local STEM expert to share her experience and background with nuclear engineering. The STEM expert was Wendy, the rock star licensing and engineering supervisor from STP Nuclear Company. She came by the cafe and she wowed the teens by diving into her world and putting on a show with her lab gadgets. So you can see in her PowerPoint, she was showing them sort of what she does in her day-to-day, and she's got some of her materials. And then in the picture, they're holding some of the gadgets that they got to engage with. And this is another one. Aquarium aqua teens, they were concerned about the health of the Gulf and local wildlife. So they invited a STEM expert from the local university to share her research on the bioaccumulation of heavy metals in sharks. And Jessica was the brainy professor from TSU. She took the stage to share her research journey. She turned her teens into mini marine biologists with shark dissection and collected tissue samples for some. It's like, that is so cool. Anything dissection is cool. I mean, I'm sort of crazy, but it's cool. So for those of you who are thinking about starting a Teen Science Cafe, why do you think this would work for your teens? What about Teen Science Cafe? Because I presume if you're here, you either knew a little bit or wanted to know more. So what about Teen Science Cafe is attractive to you? Or what about Teen Science Cafe do you have questions about or might be a little hesitant about? Yes, giving youth voice and making them feel like they have agency. And I can say from all of our reports and all of the data, that is the one thing we do. Student data, we collect student data from the teens, and that is the one thing that the majority of the teens really love, is that they get to do this. They get to be in charge. They get to choose. They run their cafes, and they feel like they're being heard. I like the teens being the driving force behind the cafes. I've been trying to come up with a way to engage teens in STEM, and this might be the way. Yep, Jesse, this is it, because they love it. It gives students a space to belong and provides innovation to create their own space for STEM learning. That's right. That's great. And again, the whole premise behind this is that it's like a cafe style. And like I said, it can be once a month. We have cafes that only run in the summer. We have cafes that I know we had a cafe that met on the weekends during the summer. So, I mean, there are different ways. They're at libraries. Liz, are you still here? Would you share a little bit about what the cafe looked like in your library?
Sure, we have had several cafes,
Yep.
and when we first started out, I serve a very underexposed population, high poverty, low performing district, blah blah blah. So I situated in one of our library branches. We have 7 after school sites throughout our library system, and this one skews towards middle and high school because there's a high school literally across the parking lot. So 300 kids come to the library every day. So audience was no problem. Pizza, of course, was no problem. The problem that we had was getting those older youth who typically are not chosen as leaders or not seen as leaders to really bite onto that. So that was our learning curve as we've moved forward. But once we got it together, we found that we had to do a lot of not educating, but just understanding that the kids' exposure was so limited. So everything that they wanted to do revolved around healthcare. So our first few cafes were healthcare. So we had a radiologist come, and she came and had a big presentation, and we examined x-rays and all that stuff, and then did like a little kind of an art project around that, and then had a discussion. And pizza, that was probably their favorite one. But then we had one that they chose with data science, and it was a little over their heads. So they weren't quite as engaged, but like I said, the audience is no big deal because there's 300 kids. So we had 35, I think the lowest we had was 25, and then the highest we had was 40. But so they came for that, but just that background piece, we found that was our little hiccup. But it's not a heavy lift, I'll say. You can do a lot with that $2,500, and making sure that your speakers are ready to speak to youth and understanding how youth come to the space. That's the other piece that you have to work on, but it's pretty simple to integrate into your program, into your daily program. We're trying to scale it back. That's why I'm really glad to hear that you're trying to do middle school. We even have elementary school that we're interested in because it's easier to develop leaders from a younger age. So you don't run into that. So we've had great fun with it. We're continuing to do it, and so I would encourage you to get involved with that.
Thank you. And so here's the roadmap to joining the network. I'm going to, after this slide, I think is the QR codes for the information session. And then you join a cohort. And again, it'll be a cohort of 40 this time. There's some online modules for the leaders, but you do those on your own time. Once you finish those, you work with your guide or your mentor to develop your implementation plan. Then you talk to your youth, you reach out to your experts, and then you host your cafes. And then you graduate and become an actual network member. So here are the QR codes for the next information sessions. There is one on May 21st at 7:00 p.m. and these times are Eastern. And there's also one on the 22nd at 4:30 p.m. And I'm going to drop my email in the chat. And you can also just reach out to me. And I can answer any questions for you. If you have any deeper questions about cafes, just reach out and we can chat. And if you click one of these, it'll take you to the registration form for either one of those days. And you got 6 minutes to sort of chill before our next session starts. If you have any questions, I can hang around and answer questions. If you have any thoughts, just share them with me. I'll be here for a minute or two. Christina, I will definitely circle back when we get ready to roll out the middle school. I'm very, very adamant about that. I think we should do it. So it's like Liz says, sometimes it's easier to grow your leaders starting at a younger age. And then when they move into high school, they can continue the cafe at the high school level.
And it's a perfect framework to implement at the middle school level.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I'll be
welcome.
forward. Okay. See you on the 21st.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody. And I'll leave that up a few more minutes.